But Bishop did mention in the schematic that was put on, or the table that was put on quite early on, was that there are potentially negative responses to warming up and raising temperature, and this is what we call thermoregulatory strain. And what we've got to remember is that exercising muscle generates heat, because fundamentally, as soon as you start to exercise and you've got the interaction of the actin and myosin filaments, those are ATP dependent processes. 75% of the energy that is derived from the splitting of ATP to produce ADP and PI to give us, in essence, our currency for doing work is lost in the form of heat. Well, that heat's got to go somewhere. And so if you start to produce excessive amounts of heat, what it's going to do, it's going to have an adverse effect on our underlying physiology. And there is some quite good evidence to suggest that warm-up, and this is, we're going to use that term very loosely because we haven't defined it yet, but this rising temperature has the potential to limit long-term performance. Why? Because you get a decrease in what we call the heat storage capacity. Now this is quite an important concept. The heat storage capacity refers to the difference between the baseline heat at which we start any form of activity and the upper threshold for heat storage, that point where fundamentally heat becomes intolerable and actually starts to become dangerous to the human body, to the point where fundamentally you will be forced to stop. So if you raise the baseline temperature, the range over which the body can now operate is smaller. You've got less storage capacity. Remember that fundamentally, any time you do work, you generate heat. Some of that heat will be stored because you don't necessarily dissipate all that heat all at once. But if I've raised the baseline temperature by doing this kind of warming up activity, I reduce my capacity for storing that heat. I therefore need to dissipate that heat. Now, if I'm trying to dissipate that heat, it's going to require a vasodilatory effect to move the heat from its point of storage through the circulation to the skin and allow the release of that heat. Well, the issue with that is that as soon as you get that vasodilatory effect, you get a vasoconstriction in other areas because you get a redistribution of blood flow. And the compromising area may well be those exercising muscles because you're trying to redistribute the blood flow to the skin to release that heat.